Hey, welcome everyone. It is August 27th, 2024. It's our 9 o'clock board briefing. Hope everyone had a great weekend. So let the record reflect that we have 4 commissioners, our present Commissioner Kearns, Commissioner Waldron, Commissioner Jordan, Commissioner CUNY. Commissioner French is out on county business today, so he will not be here. And so we'll go ahead and get started. Chandra Fox was not able to make it, so we have Chris Barnes. Good morning.
Good morning. Yeah, Chandra is out ill, so she had me covered at the last minute, so excuse me if I stumble a little bit, but yeah, I'm Chris Barnes from Spokane Emergency Management. I manage our state Homeland Security grant program. And what we're here for is asking for the board approval, basically to extend a Sultan's sub-recipient grant from us. Their grant actually ran out this spring, but they need an extension. They could not get their project done because of winter weather. That's a regular project up on towers in Sultan County, so they couldn't get it done. We had to get an extension, so now we're giving them an extension to finish up their project. And that's what we're asking for the approval for.
Okay. And this will be on next week's agenda?
Presumably, yes.
Okay. Okay. Any questions?
That was easy.
There you go.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank
I got
you.
Well, for the next meeting to cover.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that's gonna take us to Rob Lindsay.
Come on up, Jacob. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Rob Lindsay. I represent Spokane County Public Works Department, and I'm here this morning with my friend Jacob Taylor from the Spokane Conservation District and Kyle Tuig to provide an update on the status of the voluntary stewardship program in Spokane County. And Jacob, we're going to give Jacob some time to give a presentation. So also along with Jacob, Amy Sumner is accompanying me today from the Public Works Department, and Jade Thayer, who is with the Conservation District as well, and is assisting Jacob. Just as a quick summary, Spokane County has been engaging in the voluntary stewardship program for about a decade. It's administered through the Washington State Conservation Commission. It's essentially a pass-through contract. $220,000 every biennium comes through the county and has been going directly to the Conservation District to do their work. It's essentially watershed planning sort of activities. There's a working group that this organization that the board has had a hand in reviewing and approving, and that's part of the presentation today. The Conservation District works with voluntary landowners in the watershed to implement projects that improve water quality and riparian conditions, particularly on the Hangman Creek watershed, where there are a number of water quality concerns. The reason why you have somebody from Public Works representing them is because, you know, clean water benefits us all. And non-point sources of pollution from agricultural areas do contribute to nutrients accumulating in the Spokane River as well. And we're always keeping a close track on those nutrients because we are on a very strict diet as a public works utility. We can't put any more phosphorus in the river as our community grows. So as our wastewater treatment needs grow, our treatment is going to have to increase as well. And there's going to be increasing attention on water quality from tributaries like the Little Spokane and Hangman Creek. So the work that the Conservation District is doing to reduce these non-point sources of pollution is very important. And it's beneficial, in my opinion, and I think from a policy standpoint, to do this from a voluntary standpoint at this point, because the alternative is developing critical areas ordinances then that would apply in agricultural areas. And the appetite just is not that great to develop those ordinances at that time. And if we can achieve objectives through doing voluntary activities, as opposed to regulating that community, think that would be a preferred alternative for all. And so I'll just finish by saying that Jacob's going to give a highlight, a presentation on the benefits, the highlights of the work that's been done and what's going forward, and an update on the work group composition and recommendations for new work group members going forward. So, Jacob, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. I'll just start by kind of reiterating and adding a little bit to what Rob said. Spokane County really benefits from the voluntary stewardship program because it keeps that regulatory pressure off of the agricultural community, at least in the context of the Growth Management Act, as well as less burden on county planning and permitting staff. But in addition to that, it also provides funding and resources to promote and implement conservation practices on agricultural land on a voluntary basis, like Rob said. It helps us monitor critical areas, functions, and values on a watershed scale across the county and build relationships and trust with agricultural producers. From a regulatory perspective, kind of outside of that Growth Management Act box, it also provides resources that help us meet implementation and monitoring goals associated with TMDLs or other watershed planning efforts. So as far as how we're doing in Spokane County with the voluntary stewardship program, I just wanted to kind of reflect on the last 2 years or so of the program. That's about the time I started in this position. That's about the time we did our last update to you guys as well. So I just have a few highlights here. Our 2-year biennial report was submitted last summer in 2023. And it was well received by the commission, their state agency folks on the review panel. And we met or exceeded all of our work plan goals outlined for that by pretty large margins in some cases. Just in June of this year, we submitted our new monitoring plan for the county, which is a new requirement this year for VSP across the state, which the monitoring has been required all along, but the formal monitoring plan requirement is new. And it's been a little bit contentious across the state, but overall, we here at Spokane County, we're well prepared for it. We were already doing a lot of that work anyway. Again, that was well received by the commission and other agencies like WDFW, Department of Ag, and such. So our monitoring plan includes, like I said, some of the. Oh yeah, next slide.
Yeah.
I guess we should be on the next slide.
Next slide, please. Thank you, Kyle.
So yeah, our monitoring plan includes, like I said, a lot of the ongoing work we've already done, including our riparian wetland modeling projects, as well as a couple of new projects, including a benthic macroinvertebrate study we're working on looking at stream health on the Little Spokane River, and that project's just getting off the ground right now. We're looking forward to seeing what kind of results come back from that and potentially expanding that work into other watersheds as well. And I did want to touch on agricultural viability. So that's kind of the other side of the VSP coin. We have critical areas and agricultural viability, which is, the agricultural viability component has kind of been left by the wayside a little bit historically, but across the state and in our county, the VSP community has been increasing those talks about issues and challenges that farmers are facing. So our work group here in Spokane County has been having more and more discussions about those issues and challenging, including but not limited to, growth and development on agricultural land, especially up in like Peon Prairie and up around Deer Park. Cause some challenges for farmers up there and in Hangman a little bit as well. But we just recently volunteered to sit on one of the technical advisory committees for the ongoing comprehensive plan update. We look forward to bringing some of those discussions to that planning committee in over the next couple of years. And we're also working with WSU right now on a community survey, kind of trying to find out, you know, what the community knows about those challenges and issues that farmers are facing, and how much they care about protecting agriculture in our community. So, that's,
Did you have another one?
oh, I think we actually sent an updated slideshow, and
This is not the one though.
it's not the one. But you can go back to the last slide. They're pretty much the same. Yeah, this one's good. So roster update. We've had 4 of our work group members whose terms have lapsed in the last year or so. And we currently have 3 recommendations for our new work group appointments. Chris Eckhart is one of them. He's a 5th generation farmer in northern Spokane County. And he'll be taking Ty Meyer's seat. He was representing the Pacific Northwest Direct Seed Association. Curtis Johnson is the water quality program lead for Department of Ecology for the Little Spokane River watershed. And he's replacing his old boss, Chad Atkins, from the water quality program. And then we have Neil Nicholson from the City of Spokane's environmental programs, replacing Doug Greenland, also from the city. The 4th member who stepped down was Aileen Lindstrand, representing the Spokane County Cattlemen, who is not being replaced at this time. We've been working closely with Jim Wentland, the president of the Cattlemen, and he has assured me that they are committed to maintaining representation on the BSP work group. However, to date, we haven't gotten a lot of follow through from them. We had some hiccups with the Gray Fire last summer and things like that. But we're continuing to talk with them as well as others in the ranching community, and hoping to fill that seat. Yeah, that's all I have for our update. We can take questions.
I guess,
Can you remind me how large that work group is? So how much turnover there'll be?
Right now we have 9 without Aileen.
and so do those appointments come through the Board of County Commissioners? Right, for the work group?
Yes.
So what we've been doing is when we've updated on basically on a biannual basis. It was on a more regular calendar earlier, Commissioner. Then when we updated in 2023, it wasn't 2 months, 3 months after that, then there are already some folks left the work group. And so then frankly, they've been kind of struggling to get people to then come back. So, but we have been coming to the board seeking authorization, approval of updated work group members. And that's actually coming through in the resolution. So
Remember we used to, I can't remember the last time we appointed. I remember we used to, because I remember we used to get more regular updates.
Well,
about
it was an
the
early
BSP program,
it
but
would have been in early 2023.
okay.
That's the last time. So we're running about, I don't know, I guess 4 or 5 months behind. 2024.
We know it's hard to appoint. I mean, we've got, every group I speak to, I tell them, go on our website. There are tons of boards,
Yeah,
commissions that we appoint. I know it's tough to find people to fill these seats, so.
from a staffing perspective, I also wanted to provide an update that, so Amy Sumner is here with us today. Amy's going to be taking more of a lead role and with the voluntary stewardship program. My role has primarily been administrative. I've been writing the contracts and doing that. I can speak watershed, but I don't talk it. I don't walk it as well. Amy's going to bring a technical connection to that as well. She's already engaging in ways that are beyond me. And so bringing, and in light of what Jacob was saying about engaging now on comprehensive planning, that connection with the county is starting to take hold. And so I'm, I'm very confident in Amy's ability to continue to administer this project, but also to make it relevant and tie in with our programs. So she'll be working closely with Kyle and Ben and water programs and integrating. So I see that working.
Awesome, thank you.
Great.
Yeah. No, I just, I think, obviously my district's the South District, and I know the voluntary stewardship program down there has been very successful on the Lake Duck Creek.
Oh, yeah.
There, a lot of projects, so it's been nice to see, and, talking to Mickey Carter at the Conservation District, so you guys do great work, so thank you for all you do.
A lot going on down
Yeah. So, any other questions or comments? Okay.
Commissioner, can I add in one introduction to our section of this briefing?
Yes.
Joel, do you want to come up here a little bit?
Good morning, everybody.
Quick second.
Wanted to make a quick introduction. This is Joel Graff, who's joined Spokane County Public Works as our road maintenance administrator, filling the shoes left open after Andy Shank's passing. And so I just want to give Joel a quick second to introduce themselves and make sure you all can put a face to a name and know who's getting the gravel road calls these days.
Yeah, so my name is Joel Graff. I've been working in construction industry since I was 17 years old. After I got done working in construction with my father in a family business, I went to work for the city of Spokane, where I worked there for 19 years in the management office. Started off as a surveyor, moved on to EIT, then associate engineer, then senior engineer, then the principal engineer of construction management for the last 8 years. And so that's a real quick history of my lifetime work. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Very good. So you're up for all those calls that we all get that we
I've been out on several roads already.
We're not.
First, I have to Google them because I'm not, some of them are out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, no, exactly.
And I had the opportunity to work with Joel for about 8 years over City of Spokane, and he's very knowledgeable. He did all of the construction oversight, every single City of Spokane project, major capital project there. He knows the ins and outs very well. He's got an excellent disposition, very approachable, easy to interact with the public, and so I'm excited Kyle was able to encourage him to come over and work for the county.
I was ready for a change.
No, we're very excited. So I say make sure you introduce it to Brenda on your way out.
Will do.
Because I think we already have, per Matt, I forwarded him something when I was gone last week, so.
Pleasure.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thanks. Nice to meet you. Welcome aboard. We're just gonna stay in this really. Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
We're hanging in.
I'm gonna have you stay for shortly. I do have one miscellaneous item that I need to.
Oh.
Ask you about with the. Commissioners. Okay, well, welcome. Good morning.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner and Commissioners, for, I guess, welcoming us again for, another, pitch, for some wage adjustments in the prosecutor's office. I know that we've been before the board a couple of times previously already on this same issue. The adjustment to the 40-hour work week, though much appreciated, not only by all of the staff, but also me personally, meant a great deal. But it has not changed the dynamics, and I really didn't expect that a couple $1,000 for the attorney level isn't gonna do much when, as you know, from previous presentations that we've made, the counties that surround us with whom we compete for the talent that comes out of the law schools, we're still as much as $37,000 low. That would be the extreme case, Yakima. But overall, we're still 15 to 20 on average behind everybody. And as I've said to the board before, I'm not here looking to be the industry leader. And the Spokane is the cherry, you know, to which everybody wants to aspire. But we do need to be competitive in the market. And the market, even if you view it very narrowly, is the other attorney offices, prosecuting attorneys that reside around us in the state. So what we have done for today's presentation is we've developed two scenarios, and based on another request that we were working with budget, we have given the board two scenarios, one of which sets a false bottom of step 6 for 3 ones, and it would move them from 63, this is an annual number now, 63,000 and change to 73,000 and change. And then what we did, and I asked them to do this based on another type of a scenario that we were working with for staff. What is the 2024 impact if this were to be implemented immediately to the end of the year? Yes. And then as you see, 2025 impact, no COLA, just in case the board goes that way, or if they went to a 3% COLA, just for the sake of having a number out there. We have that. Scenario 2 is the one that I would like to draw your attention to the most. And that is, it is a proposal that we just eliminate the attorney 1 classification entirely. It's so low that even a step 6 is, as you see, going to 73 is still on average well below what the market is. And again, I define the market as the people that we're competing against, which includes the other prosecutor's office in the state, particularly the east side, but also Kootenai County. We have to pay attention to them. They start at 85 right now in Kootenai County. But in the scenario that we actually prefer, that we think has got the greatest chance of moving the needle, the elimination of the attorney 1 position, everybody goes to a step 2. We have like 4 positions that are currently vacant. I'm going to let Preston talk some of those details because he's been working more closely with Ellie. But you see the change in the impact. If we did that, it would be 70,000 for the remainder of 2024. And then the no COLA and 3% COLA projections are there. And the other ask that we have is that we can have a resolution that the board wanted to resolve this immediately prepared for you for a vote this afternoon. That would be our preference. So I'm going to turn some more finer detail over to Preston, and then we'll have whatever questions you have, we'll try to answer.
And I don't have too much more to add, other than, I mean, this is, at this point, it's a bit of an old hat, and that we've been before you, I think, 2 or 3 times. I know I've spoken with many of you individually. The issue, and what Larry and I have talked about, we've talked about a lot with the sheriff, right? And we talk a lot about commitments to public safety. Well, a commitment to public safety has to include this piece, right? And this is how you show it. It's the ability to prosecute the crimes that are actually happening out in the community. Because right now it's catch and release, right? Because we don't have the lawyers to handle it and process it. These 2 asks, it's more reflective of what we asked for initially. earlier this year, as we asked to regrade attorney one to a different classification, which would have put it around 80,000. And we were rebuffed on that, and we were offered attorney one step 6. So begrudgingly, we said, no, that still doesn't meet market value, market standards. But we say at this point, sure, we'll take that if we have to, but we'll be right back before the board next year. We were rebuffed again and said, no, just kidding. It's attorney one step 3, adopt this other philosophy. And I guess my pitch to you and what I would implore each of you to consider is, rather than creating a scenario that puts us back before here in 9 to 12 months, let's set, a wage that actually puts us in the competitive pool. Larry and I were talking, we've talked about this a lot. Even if we were to start at attorney 2, I don't have confidence that we would fill these positions by the end of the year, just given the nationwide attorney shortage and nationwide prosecutor shortage. A lot of our major cities across the US, they're down 20 or 30% of their prosecutors. So that's the national statistic. So what it does, though, is it puts us in a different pool of candidates. Right now, we have a lot of folks applying for these positions that are unqualified, don't want to be. Well, I take that back. We don't have a lot of people applying for these positions. The applicants that we're getting are applying for a position that's, $15,000 to $30,000 less than a surrounding county. And many of them don't have either the qualifications or the skill set or desire to be prosecutors, right? So there's still a law enforcement aspect to this job. So when people apply for it, they have to be well suited to doing law enforcement. And so that's the challenge that we have in terms of considering the applicants that we get. When looking at that first option, potentially, right, the budget impact for a full year of 2025 is around 93,000. For the remainder of the year, it's 33. When we first came before the board, we had proposed numbers and generated numbers with a start date of April. And we're now going into September. And so we still don't have either the money to attract, nor do we have the candidates, in the hopper right now to hire if we wanted. What had been proposed at one point by Human Resources is attorney one step 3. And we could provide those numbers. But when you look at the difference, when you look at attorney one step 6, putting it at 73, I believe step 3 is somewhere around 66 or 67,000, right? And so just multiply that by 9, right? So it's a difference of 3,000 or 4,000. So we're only, I think, roughly 30,000, and Randy would be able to say better than I, roughly 30,000 off the number that I think at least Human Resources was prepared to go to. And that's still just simply not enough. The more simple solution would be to dissolve attorney 1 and just start with attorney 2. And speaking with counties around us, they've gone through extraordinary measures to set these salaries so they could compete. And we're all competing for the same pool of people. We want people that care about public safety. We want people that know they're going to do the work and it's going to be hard. I spoke to via email with the Snohomish County Chief of Staff here recently, and they just discussed some of the issues going on. Some of these counties have lost 50 to 60 lawyers over the last 5 to 6 years to lower stress jobs, better paying jobs. And when I say 50 to 60 lawyers, it's 50 to 60 prosecuting attorneys. And so this is a high stress job that, especially in Spokane, you're going to work harder. You're going to be doing more cases than surrounding counties just by virtue of the work that we have. So we need to be able to attract candidates who, knowing that full well, are willing to take that entry level step. So right now, when we're attracting laterals, we have laterals applying for positions, but we cannot attract that entry level attorney that's just graduating from law school. Because as soon as they hit day 1, I've got a bar card, they can go virtually anywhere and make it work. And so that's a position that we're in. And talking with our Kootenai County partners, they have an attorney 1, which is essentially their intern awaiting bar results. I have 5 individuals right now that are in that position. They took the bar at the end of July. They're awaiting bar results. Thankfully, we were able to onboard them at that, 63,000 is where we're at. What was interesting in talking to other counties, they're paying people in that situation more than we are. And so we're just thankful that we have these folks that were interning in our office, want to stay in Spokane and want to remain here. So hopefully once they, get bar results, we're able to onboard them, but we also have to be able to retain them. And so Kootenai, Their year one barred lawyers are starting at 85,696. And you know, the graph, if you switch to page 2, shows you know, a smattering. I think I've got 23 different counties on there, including Kootenai. And these were postings that were taken off of the Washington Association of Prosecuting Attorneys website, just describing what some of the differences are. And so this isn't east-west divide. We always talk about the east side discount and we take 10% or 18% off of what that looks like. In the attorney world, it doesn't exist, especially right now as it relates to prosecutors. So WAPA posted a map, I think that was included in some of your materials as well. But for me, the grid just kind of makes a little bit more sense. And so these counties are doing some extraordinary things that we simply can't do. I mean, one of the counties has a 32-hour work week. We certainly couldn't do that. We'll never get anything done.
That's okay, all of us in Wassac are like not happy with Sandbluff,
Yes.
because they're the only ones that can, they're a summer county,
Mhm.
you know, so that's why they are able to do that. So no other county is gonna do that.
Yes. Well, and they have some nice views, some nice rain. Can't do that. And then there's just a lot of things too. Snohomish County offers some incentives to incoming attorneys and it's on their job posting. Incoming attorney, you know, you get 96 hours of annual, 96 hours of sick. So that's coming in the door to have something, right, in terms of a vacation. And so we haven't explored some of those options, you know, yet. But the Snohomish numbers are also not reflective of their in the process of executing a new collective bargaining agreement. So that number is going to change. And so while looking at Snohomish as a comparable county and say, oh, well, 77 is less than us, that's just their top out for attorney 1. That's their district court lawyer. So our district court lawyers are at the 63. Their top out for senior attorneys 175. And so their range is much higher, and it's only 6 steps per range. So they have 3 levels of attorney and they go through them, you know, 6 steps for each level. So when somebody's starting out there, that's just the range for attorney. So these are reflective of just attorney 1. And when you look at our attorney 1, we're not even competitive. So, you know, that's the position we're in. I know that, you know, with revenues and what's available, you know, hard choices and cuts have to be made in places, but right now we're just not able to keep track of what we got. So we can't keep ahead of it. Even late last night, I was speaking with law enforcement about some cases that were declined. And I hate to say that we have so many cases right now that I simply cannot process them all. So being down as many lawyers as we've been this year, it's hundreds of cases that can't be processed on a given day. And those are the things that keep me and Larry up at night as we consider how do we triage these things, right? It's the legislature does it for us. They say Class A felonies is where priority is in terms of serious violent offenses. So our sex crimes unit, we had to take a position away from them to move to another position to make a supervisor, but they are fully staffed presently, and they're working hard. Our domestic violence unit is down attorneys. Our property and drugs unit is down attorneys. These individuals that have just taken the bar, while we're very grateful, they can't practice in Superior Court. The way the rules work, they can only practice in district court until they get their bar results. So we're hampered in what we can do in terms of utilizing them, but we're ever so thankful that we have them. And, you know, thanks to our partners across the U.S. Attorney's Office, we were able to get a couple of those interns referred to us from them. And then as it, you know, we're being creative in trying to attract employees. We've had DPAs presenting at the law school in different classes, DPAs presenting at different forums around town on issues regarding prosecution and public safety. And so we've, you know, had a increase in interns coming in that way, but, you know, presently we've got interns that haven't graduated law school yet. They want to be prosecutors, but that's a pipeline 2 or 3 years down the road. When they get to that decision-making point, you know, they're faced with the numbers on that grid. And if, you know, folks aren't anchored to Spokane, they can go elsewhere. And so I joke sometimes with a couple of attorneys that we have that, you know, we were blessed that they owned a house in Spokane with a good interest rate. Because if they moved, they would lose out, right? And so because of that, they stayed in our office and are making 15, 20 grand less because they owned a home. And so, you know, we got them essentially as a They were anchored here for other reasons, and we were fortunate enough to have them here. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I know we've covered this ground a few times. I guess what I would just implore the board at this point is, you know, whether it be by resolution or whether by motion, that we get some action at some point that galvanizes the county, you know, bureaucracy and, you know, to move the ball forward. I know that there are other consequences of this as well, regarding, you know, public defense. I spent a lot of time talking with Colin Charbonneau about this. We're constantly either fighting over the same candidates. Fortunately, I was able to steal a lawyer from Mr. Charbonneau this week, rather end of last week. And so they'll be onboarding to our side. But that only helps us temporarily. And so we have discussed these options. I know that, you know, Colin's unit has issues as it relates to labor negotiations, but I think I could fairly say in theory that he is supportive of this because it moves the ball forward and puts us in an arena where we can compete. Because right now, we're not even fishing in the same pond.
And I might add, this would be a major statement towards the stated goal of the county, which is that public safety comes first. Right now, as you know, we have a very effective and large group of law enforcement officers. They do good work. When Preston talks about cases that aren't being filed, these are cases that we can't file because of a shortage of prosecutors that meet statutory standards. And the majority of those victims are going to be, thankfully, if you got to rate things, property. But nonetheless, if someone loses their truck, they no longer can get to work. They may not be able to do their business. If their business is burglarized and it doesn't get prosecuted because of a shortage of prosecutors, they have constitutional and statutory rights as well as defendants do. 7.69, there's potentially, and I've mentioned this number before, 1,000 potential victims out there who are not going to see justice because of the fact that we can't afford, based on the natural prioritization of serious violent felonies on down to property, which many of which are C or in some cases B felonies. But this is an opportunity for the board to just take a stand, defend victims, defend the actions of your law enforcement, because right now they're not getting the service for the work that they're putting in. So the county's spending money, but they're not spending to get the just result at this point. We're way behind. We're going to fall further behind if some action isn't taken.
And what I would submit is you're spending it already. You're spending it at the jail. You're spending it, you know, in the inability to process folks and transfer them to Department of Corrections. Look at the cost of what it is to run overtime at the jail, or sit down there on a Friday and Saturday night and just watch the sheer disappointment of law enforcement as they bring somebody in. They've been hooked up righteously on a crime, and then they get turned away. Jail's at capacity. They can't take folks, right? And so, and I would submit that the county is spending it elsewhere, but it's spending it in overtime. It's spending it in fees to house and feed, you know, inmates at the jail. And there is going to be an issue with defense. I mean, because part and parcel of this attorney shortage is the defense attorneys. So we're willing and able to consult and troubleshoot on those issues, because as prosecutors, we can't do our job if we don't have the defense attorneys there as well. So, you know, we have a number of ideas, and I know Colin and I have talked a lot about how can we streamline and assist each side, you know, in streamlining those things. And so this is a dialogue that goes beyond today and this year and into next year, but we're willing to you know, roll up our sleeves and help in any way that we can. Because if we're charging somebody with the crime, they need that constitutional defense on the other side. And we're going to do whatever we can to make sure that they have it.
Thanks for coming again. Thanks for all the information you provided. I really appreciate all the comparables. I appreciate the cost estimates that you've provided, which are just for the prosecutor's office, right? Just thinking out loud here, I also share the frustration that we don't have this resolved yet. I would like to get it resolved in a timely fashion. I have really two kind of outstanding questions, which I think should be able to be answered in relatively short order. One is kind of what is the entire system cost impact of these actions, which would include the public defender's office potentially, or counsel for defense, depending on what the choice is. So what's the full picture cost, which is not on you to provide, that's on our team to provide. That's number one. Number two is really what are the pay for options that we have to pay for these choices, which I think I would imagine that all five of us want to act in a timely fashion. I don't think this is something that should wait until our regular budget process churns on. I think we need to come up with something in the shorter term. So my suggestion for the board to consider would be, I think we should meet every Tuesday in a briefing until it's decided with these questions answered, and hopefully we could get some answers in a week and come back and see that cost picture clearly, talk about what the pay fors are, and hopefully be pretty close to making a decision and getting it done. So that's a proposal for consideration.
I believe Colin Charbonneau may be virtually present here. I don't know about CFD.
Well, they're small enough that.
Well, one thing I'd say about CFD, this proposal,
Attorney ones.
right, this proposal
They have
contemplates attorney ones and counsel for defense doesn't have them.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
the nature of their work is felony conflict. And so, but I do believe that Colin has perhaps 10 or 11 attorney one positions, so we're talking about 20 positions total. And so,
There's Colin. Colin, if you want to unmute, yeah, how many attorney ones do you have in your area?
Yeah, I think Preston's pretty close there. I want to say it's closer to 12 or 13, but yeah, it's pretty close.
12 or 13, okay. And how many are vacant right now?
Well, as Preston mentioned, we just lost one yesterday, so.
Oh, sorry, I didn't have salt in the wound.
Yeah, thanks for that. We are now, I think, 9. I will double check that. I think we're 9.
Okay. And I guess one of the questions I have is how many times are you seeing continuances because you have a new attorney on a case? Because I'm hearing from the judges that they're now continuing more cases because of new attorneys are coming on, and so they've got to give those attorneys time to get up to speed on that case. So I guess that's my question to both of you, because I think I hear it from that it could be either side.
And that's accurate, and I think it happens, I would say, frequently. Especially the last 6 to 8 months when we've lost quite a few senior attorneys, those caseloads have to be transferred to someone, or cases have to be assigned to conflict counsel. And every time that happens, basically it's starting again, right? Especially on the more serious cases, the more serious litigation. Got a homicide case, for example. Yeah, then that attorney's got to go through all that discovery, all that body cam, all the cell phone data. If there's DNA, the autopsy, and that starts fresh. And then they've got to go through the interview process. So that's why you're seeing, folks at the jail staying 2-3 years before cases are resolved or before they get to trial.
and I can speak a little bit to that. And I've got some rough numbers from the beginning of the year, if my memory serves me correctly, and Colin could perhaps correct me, but I think traditionally we were around, 3,000 to 4,000 continuances in terms of the number of cases that we had. But I believe numbers for last year, we were somewhere, between 6,000 and 7,000 continuances, getting close to near doubling. Because again, as you're transitioning bodies out, you've got new people getting spun up on both sides of the aisle. They don't have the ability to just jump in and take a case, and they would be providing, constitutionally deficient representation. And so we've had a lot more of that with our vacancies and felonies on the criminal side. We've at times had to float entire caseloads of 100 plus 200 cases, until we could get a new body in place. And so we've had to do that sometimes for weeks or months at a time, which results in continuances.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So to your point, Commissioner Jordan, I mean, I think we need to make an investment. We need to do that. So for me, it's just trying to figure out how we pay for it. And so I think that's where getting some more data. I mean, are we assuming a certain number of vacancies, even if we make a deeper investment, in our public defenders and prosecutors? And then is there some salary savings there that can go to help pay for? So that's the kind of information I'm looking for, is just, I think we're getting really close. And we just need to figure out how are we going to put that into the budget? And I didn't know if there were already some budget assumptions that we've already made about vacancies, so trying to figure that out, to figure out how we can pay for this and, you know, in the next year. Cause I'm assuming even if we make this change, you're not gonna fill all the positions right away. So there will be some salary savings that could go towards covering this increase.
No, and that's correct. And if you were to look at Colin's salary savings as well as the prosecutor's salary savings year to date, it's pretty extensive. I mean, we've each had 9 to, double digit vacancies all year long. And so, unless that money has been spent elsewhere unbeknownst to us, we probably each have, I'd say, conservatively close to at least 500,000 or 600,000 salary savings for 2024, just due to the vacancies, and it may be much more than that. And looking at next year, there are some potential options. I believe that we need all the prosecutor FTEs that we have, but I do think that there's some avenues if we need to, either temporarily deactivate a position if there was an issue, if we weren't filling it anyway. But I would want the commitment from the board that, due to community needs, and if we did have individuals in the pipeline that we could fill that position with, that we can get that reactivated if we can demonstrate that need. So there are some options there. But when you look at a county of our size for what we have for criminal prosecutors, it's pretty minimal already. We have 52 FTEs total to address all crime in Spokane. And so that's a very small and very thin line that addresses those types of crimes. And was that number right-ish, Colin?
I think that's correct. Also, I would say on the defense side of things, Commissioner, there's an additional offset I think we've talked about before, that as you're aware, we have a conflict office budget as well. Historically, it's been about $300,000 a year, but the last 2 years, because of our vacancies, because of our staffing issues, it's risen substantially. And in fact, in 2025, we're asking for $600,000. I think you would save $350,000 to $400,000 if we were fully staffed, in addition to the other money you would save just by not having to send those cases out. So there's that as well. And I can get you more accurate data on that. I don't have.
Is that kind of what you were wanting?
Yeah.
Well, and if I could, the other part of that is, and Commissioner Cuny talked about it a little bit, and that is when the pipeline, if you will, from arrest to the day a judge sentences somebody, when that is shortened and the number of continuances go down and the number of days and nights in the jail go down, and therefore the potential for issues that typically happen in the jail go down. And there's also more room for the more serious violent offenders to actually be in the house and not have to make these tough judgments. There's a cost savings in there. Commissioner, I'm not sure exactly how we can, actually assess that, but I think between the various parts, if we get the judges together and the jail and the public defender's office and ourselves, we should be able to give you at least an idea about what that would look like in terms of savings, because the more efficient the system is, the quicker it's gonna get these things done. Every time we haul somebody in, transport from the jail, court time, lawyer time, judge time, clerk time, court reporter time, all those things add up. And if we're reducing that sort of thing, then we're gonna become more efficient, and it isn't gonna even have the price tag that it appears to have right now. And I think that's your. I'd be happy to help with that too. Sure, I'll be happy to help with that. Okay, awesome.
So I guess I will just say that I'm frustrated that we're still here after, because when did you first come to us?
March.
So I think trying to figure out just like we tack on the interest are, we're not getting attorneys. I mean, Commissioner Jordan, you asked the AG's office what their starting salary is, and it's 76. for a first year
in Spokane.
in Spokane. You know, we just. I've always said we've got to be above 70, otherwise we're not gonna attract anybody. So in my mind, I'm, you know, yes, we have these questions, but somehow we have to figure out how to pay for it, because we can't afford not to pay for it. I'm willing to look at a resolution, you know, paying in step 6. Might be where you guys want to be, but I don't know. I mean, I think we at least got to start, you know, we got to the 40-hour work week, you know, like try to start to get, because that is based on a 40-hour work week.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Start to get the base salary to a point that, you know, we can get somebody in the door. I don't know that we quite afford to go to the 83, is that what the other one is? If we eliminate attorney 2. Because if we eliminated the attorney 1, I mean, it's like working with HR. I mean, we should, if somebody's eligible to be an attorney 2, we should be able to get them there, right?
The way that it works within our office is as they matriculate to felonies, they get promoted to attorney 2.
Okay.
And so, and that just kind of depends on the ebb and flow, you know, of where we're at now.
So
So if you did away with attorney 1s, so the lowest level you have is an attorney 2, would you be able to hire any attorney fresh out of law school then? I mean, can you hire an attorney that really doesn't have any experience outside of maybe the intern into an attorney 2? Or would your hiring pool only be attorneys that have kind of been on the job for a couple of years?
We would essentially be merging the class specs, right? So that attorney 2 would effectively become the new attorney 1. So that
Okay,
we would be left with just simply attorney 1 and attorney 2 after we put new stickers on the titles. So that's what
okay,
that would look like. And that's what a lot of the other counties did, is that they collapsed their pay scales and then folded them back out again with a new bottom at typically what their 2 level was. You see, you know, Benton, Franklin, all these other counties kind of folded it in and refolded it out to deal with compression. And so here, my concern is if we try to address compression, it'll be 2 years from now that Larry and I are coming again, asking for the same thing. This is kind of a quick solution, but what it would contemplate, we would have to merge the class specifications of attorney 1 and attorney 2. And then, you know, if there was going to be a different class later on down the road, we have to address it. This is more of an emergency measure than anything else.
And if the board looks at this chart here, which has that surrounding county information, if you look at 83 and you plug it into, again, this is our market, such as it is. Whatever someone else wants to call their market, the prosecuting attorney market is our market, and you see that, you know, you've got 94, Yakima's kind of off scale 100, Monterey 77, Okanagan 95, Clark 107, Lewis is at 76, Nahoma is 77, Stark 80 for Benton, 86 for Chelan, 89 for Franklin. And 83 is kind of sits right in the middle of what that other group is. If the board can afford to do that,
and we don't,
I respect your
and
opinion.
we don't have the numbers for it presently, because again, we're using step 6 because it was kind of the arbitrary number we were given by Ashley Cameron when we met last October. So October of 2023. September of 2023. At that time, Ms. Cameron said, well, it should be attorney 1 step 6 if you could afford it in your budget. And here we are nearly October the following year and we're not there. Right, but there is still room left in the attorney 1 pay scale. That's a happy medium between attorney 2 and that step 6. It might be step 7, step 8, step 9. You know, to get us above that 73.
But as they
number.
come in, I guess this would be an HR question, so sure, Josh, if you can answer. If we set it at a step 6 as the minimum, you know, if they've got some experience, or I guess if we need to go a little higher to get them, is that to go on the steps, or can you only start at that step 6?
Well, if the board decides to set it as step 6, we could still offer advanced step if they still have some experience. And so we would be able to offer above step 6.
I just think since, you know, we know we're going into tough budget year next year. I guess I'd rather have you come, and I know you guys don't want to come back, but, and I don't want you to come
Comes
back.
off of this, you'll have us.
But I'd rather say, let's go with that step 6, the scenario 1, see if we can get attorneys in at that level. And if we can't, then that's the next question, is to come back and relook at it. But I don't know what Delane and what questions we're gonna have answered that's gonna change. My mind won't change. I think we at least have to get here.
So what about, so with our detention officers and our sheriff's deputies, we have a signing bonus. Have we explored what that would look like as a one-time cost rather than, as part of the step structure?
I think if we start here and see if we can get attorneys at this level, and then, then we would look to do it.
So that could be a happy medium if we were to do this step 6, but then offer a signing bonus. I just noticed another of the counties offered a
And
signing
the
bonus.
benefit to a signing bonus would be to entice out of state employees, right? Because we would get, because it would cover moving costs. So Benton County did that for a period of time. Pend Oreille, Okanagan, a lot of them did it to provide, and some of them are currently doing it. Many of them are currently doing it. And so, I mean, that would certainly be something that would help offset some of that. And so we have had applicants from out of state because our advertisement says this is the range for attorney 1. But a lot of those conversations end quickly when I say, if you only have 1 year of experience, you're starting at step, 1 or 2. And so they say, well, thanks very much, but no thanks. And so if there was something to offset a moving cost to come from out of state, I think that would be huge.
One of the other things driving this too, Commissioner, is there's a statewide, maybe even a nationwide, but I'll speak about Washington because I know it best. There's a statewide shortage of lawyers that go into public service law. The public defenders have had recruiting issues for a long time. We've had recruiting issues for a long time. And even for those counties that are paying more money, they're not necessarily filling up either. It's just not a career that people are going to in the numbers that they want. So you have to have a reason for them to want to come here. What I can offer them right now, and this is a fact, is one of the lowest wages on the eastern side of the state and one of the highest caseloads that you'll see anywhere in the state. And that's not necessarily a very attractive combination to have going here, particularly with, our crime rates, what they are. And the inability to service through prosecution, the caseloads that are being generated through law enforcement referrals, we're just not keeping up. And we will fall behind more and more weekly, monthly, as we move along if we don't take some action. A signing bonus, again, Commissioner, several other counties are doing it. Even Yakima, I think he's still got his bonus. So they get a brand new penny lawyer at $100,000 in Yakima. And they offer a signing bonus as well. And they structure it differently. Pend Oreille has one, they structure it a little differently. Get half up front, half after a year. Another one is half up front, the other half after 6 months, that sort of thing.
Well, it was just a thought, because we could look at what that cost would be if it would be, to the budget, because it's a one-time versus an ongoing expense, but.
And as Chris has pointed out, and for out-of-state candidates, that may represent a good portion of their moving costs to get into the state.
But you still gotta get the base salary up where people. are
Right,
willing
right.
to look
So-
at it. So I mean, that's where,
73, and then a signing bonus on top of that. That could be a compromise between getting rid of the attorney 1 altogether. Again, I'm open to investing in this. I just want to see what it's going to cost and then how we might budget for it for next year and see if we can make it happen as soon as possible.
I think if we go back to scenario 1, John, if you don't mind. So budget impact for 2025. We'll assume a COLA would be 95, and that's for how many attorneys?
That would be for all 9 attorney ones in our office,
For
so
9, and then Collins would have the same amount,
12-ish.
Same or a couple more. If the kid,
so. So double it and add another 10,000 maybe. So, I mean, that's what the cost is gonna be. I mean, I just think it's like we're continuing to try to analyze this, and I don't know that we're getting all the asking questions, and we're not getting answers, but I think that's then the cost is it's gonna be $210,000 next year that people have to, and this is where people are gonna have to figure out within their budgets, because we don't have extra money to do all this, and so just like we're asking the sheriff's office as we look at what those potential increases are, how within their budgets are they gonna be able to handle it, but it's just not an add-on. But everyone's gonna have to dig deeper as we look to 2025.
right. And if the sheriff's office decides, and I certainly don't pretend to speak for the sheriff, but if they decide that to meet the current budget requirements, or that they have to cut or certainly not hire additional law enforcement, if the referrals go down, then that will at least slow the rate at which we are behind, which means, I suppose, over a period of lengthy years, we could get back to where we were. But this hole didn't develop overnight. It has been a work in progress for some period of time. So, but we will all work together to try to find our way out of it. And, our job, as I view it, is to make sure that the board is going to happen timely. And I don't wish to be necessarily in your shoes right now, but our job is to make sure that we sound this, because if we don't, then I'm not doing my job in the public safety arena to let the board know we are behind and falling further behind in the prosecution of crime in Spokane County.
And for context, it was March of 2023, Larry sent an email to Human Resources saying, please reassess my 1s and 2s, because we can't compete at that point, right? So that's a year and a half ago. And
So
here we
what
are.
I'm happy to do, I don't know if the rest of the board is willing to, is to have you put a resolution forward, put it on for next week. We can always strike it if, and if the commissioners aren't okay with it. That gives us a week to try to get, additional answers. We'll have a Monday and a Tuesday next week, before that.
I think that'd be a good idea. Could we have an agenda item to kind of get those just before us in the morning on Tuesday? So we just kind of go into that.
Or even on Monday. Yeah.
It's Labor Day.
Oh, we don't need Monday. Oh,
Okay.
that's right.
You're welcome to be here Monday.
Go ahead. No. So yeah, on Tuesday morning, let's just make sure we, put a little bit of time. I would ask if you have any other, you stated your questions today, but I would have you put those in writing to Scott, so that way we know the answers that we have. But I think I'm comfortable just knowing that, I think our system is not working. This is the cog that is stopped right now. In the jail, in the criminal justice system with the judges and all of that. And I think, yes, there's gonna be some efficiencies that will be gained. But we don't, I don't know that we'll have the answer. I think when I've asked before, that's too hard to figure out what that cost savings would be. But I think it's just one of those that we've got to get the judges on board that, we're working hard to make this happen. So we've got to, since I've been here, talk about continuances and how they're killing us. So that's my big thing is we just got to get stepped up so we don't have that issue.
And if we can get up to the staffing, I think that a lot of those savings that are intangible right now are going to become readily apparent as we work through cases and hopefully get the jail population lower, and address, just some of the overtime issues that are affecting everybody.
And if this isn't, if this base isn't enough, then we're gonna know soon enough, and between Colin and you guys. And I don't know how it works with the public defenders because of being a union. If the RCWs that you stated before, Colin, if we have to kind of move, I don't know how that works. So that's one of the questions that I think we would want to get answered before next week. To know is that, do they have to go through negotiations or based on your RCWs and our policy, if it just automatically moves or not? So that would be one of the questions I would have. But I mean, we know at least what that cost is basically, so I mean.
But I think this gives a general idea.
Yeah.
If there's any questions that Larry or I can answer, we're happy to answer anything. So shoot us an
And then-
email, give
And
us
I
a call.
think if that base isn't enough, then do we look at a signing?
Yeah,
bonus?
I mean, my preference would be to get up to that, like 77 to 79. I just, when you look at all the other counties, so maybe there's a way we could do that with a signing bonus. That was just a thought, if that was easy for HR to make the step change, but then add the bonus on top of that. Rather than, other convoluted strategies.
Right.
So I mean, that would be my preference, to just go higher. We have salary savings this year that maybe we can figure out how to roll into next year from both of these budgets. So I think we need to put something on the agenda next week and then flesh it out.
And,
Let us know what you need from
and
us.
board for helping us determine efficiency, if there are any, once we get moving on that pipeline. Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, pre-conviction average length of stay, if we're moving more efficiently, should go down. Correct. So that's a one to watch right there, pre-conviction, because if they're convicted and they drew a jail sentence, that's gonna be a relatively set amount of time. But pre-conviction, average length of stay should, at some point with some efficiencies, go south.
And the 72 hour
Yeah.
decision, that could also speed it up, as well.
So Mike could be a valuable source of information for that for all of us.
And then I think from HR, what we need to know is that step 6 where we should be, or should we be a little bit higher? Because knowing that AG's office is at 76, which is a very comparable in Spokane. When we know all of the rest of our comparables were already way below.
That'd be about step 7 or 8, I think.
So when to go with that look like?
I was gonna say, Mike, when we were doing the MacArthur and the ride share analysis, didn't you kind of come up with some starting point math on kind of the cost of a stay in the jail? That might be good to look
Yeah,
at
we'll
too.
start there. We'll talk about it.
So I think, have the resolution ready with a step that isn't there, and we'll have to, at least put the step 6 in, and then we'd have till Thursday's agenda time to change that.
If it's helpful, what I could submit, either by end of day today or tomorrow, it's just an analysis of starting at step 6, do away with option number 2, but do a cost of step 6, 7, 8, and just present it in the same way here and send it out.
Sure, and make sure you're CC. Josh, are you the one it would go to?
For sure.
Josh and Heather.
So, because I want to make sure we have HR's input on that as well.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, don't go.
Jack Moore.
I have a miscellaneous,
Okay.
so you stay. So, okay, so that concludes our agenda items for today, and then it's miscellaneous, and one of the miscellaneous I have is Wasac had received, that you guys have requested a Nika breed.
Yes.
And so, but with Wasac, it has to come, since we're the member organization, the county commissioners has to be approved by the county commissioners. I don't think approval, because we've never approved things in the past. I think it just has to have kind of our,
Maybe we're the ones that submitted.
yes, we're the ones that's supposed to.
And I think my understanding of it was, because I spoke with our appellate lawyer on that, was that it has to be submitted by a member of the Wasac board, I think. Somebody who's an actual member, and that the prosecuting attorney
It's not.
is not.
Yeah, the commissioners are. So anyway, can you explain what it is? And just, I'm happy to, if I have some head nods, just to.
Yes, so, and I guess, least to the best of my ability in this moment. So what it is essentially is,
That's the summary I have.
and there was a rule change to one of the juvenile court rules regarding whether or not judges can issue bench warrants for certain juvenile offenders. And so our office had filed an appeal that went before Division 3. It essentially found that the Supreme Court had promulgated a rule that is essentially a separation of powers issue. So it's up to the legislature to determine how these warrants can be issued. The Supreme Court's rulemaking authority, in our opinion, overstepped or exceeded their grasp. And so Division 3 agreed. That case has been appealed and is now going before the Supreme Court. And so our appellate attorney, Ms. Lundgren, has submitted a brief. I think she submitted it last week on that issue. And I know that there were several other entities that were looking for, amicus briefs from different organizations to include WASAC, because the issue was, again, public safety, right? If the legislature has said a judge may issue a warrant in these circumstances, and they're doing it on a case-by-case basis to address, potential violent offenders in the community, then the court should be able to do that. And so that's basically the position that's there. I do anticipate that they were going to get some amici brief from other organizations as well, but I know that there was a request that I think, and Larry had formalized it, that has, more detail, but that's kind of the nuts and bolts of it. So I could provide more information at a later time, and I could bring Ms. Lundgren over to kind of explain more fully.
Just for the JRAs that
Yes.
was done up.
Yeah, we could have them actually write for the board a point paper that would give you, Crystal, the issue that's gonna be decided and how it arose through that
And
case.
provide the
and then-
opinion that has the lead opinion and the dissenting opinion, because that might be some discussion that you want to have, on there, because that Division 3, obviously, I think Judge Pinnell authored the lead opinion, and Judge Fearing offered the dissenting opinion. But
I don't know if
What's the time?
Yeah,
That's,
it's,
what's the time?
I'm not,
if it's gonna happen, probably within the next week or two to be approved, to get down that line, but I think that oral argument scheduled in November.
It's a point paper.
I don't know that we have to approve as the board. I think it's just, as commissioners, each commissioner is a member. I don't know. I can re-ask that question, but I mean,
And
I
I can provide
didn't know
some detail
anything
probably
about
by
it,
this
so I just
afternoon.
needed to get some information before I was like.
And I can provide, I'll get a synopsis by this afternoon or first thing in the morning. I can provide to all 5 commissioners.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. But that was my understanding. We just need to make sure that it was the commissioner that. brought
Right,
it
and my
forward.
understanding is it's a commissioner, not necessarily a move of the board.
That was my understanding as well. So. But just to be aware that our county is requesting that.
Ultimately, this may boil down to the Supreme Court deciding whether the Supreme Court violated the
Awkward.
separation of powers.
Yeah.
I don't know how that's gonna work out exactly. But
I have some ideas.
So, yeah,
we'll have that to you timely, Commissioner.
okay, then let's talk to me.
Well, it's interesting, the Division's 3.
Okay.
Okay,
Thanks very much.
thank you.
That's weird.
Now you can go.
It's
Yeah.
Okay, are there any other miscellaneous items?
Did you wait for Jan?
I did.
Oh, I got one. Jeff had highlighted last week for me. He's out this week on vacation, but he's dutifully
Zoomed in?
calling in. So he mentioned that the governor's budget is in process right now. I don't think we as the county commissioners have ever, at least not during my time, put a request in through the governor's budget. Obviously, you do through the legislative process. So Jeff wanted me just to highlight for today, if there is an interest in submitting for the commissioners into the governor's budget, any requests, he wanted me to highlight it's due by the 15th of September. So just to think about some opportunities, a couple of things to tease out, maybe it's in a further investment in Plants Ferry, perhaps it's further investment in the Crisis Relief Center, but didn't need a decision today, just wanted to raise it for your awareness. And then when Jeff's back next Tuesday, we can talk about it some more if that's an interest for the commissioners. So.
If I could just add, Scott, there, we're not expecting, because it's in the governor's budget, that it would be awarded in what the legislature passes. As you all know, the governor's budget, regardless of who the governor is not, you know, it's a document. It's not one that gets passed at the end, but there is possibly some momentum that would be built up for our legislative ask, if in that process we could say, and you'll also notice the governor included it in his budget. So it's kind of a building step. I've talked with Burgess about it. John Colton's the one who actually brought the idea to me. And John has hired another person on his team who previously worked in this governor's budget office. So that also gives us a little bit more relationship there as far as you know, knowing how to invest at this level. We would like any final decisions, if possible, by next week, to give staff time to put details behind it and work it before it was formally presented before the 15th.
Yeah, I spoke with Jeff briefly the other day about this. I mean, he's totally right. In Olympia, I mean, when people come through and they're like, when they would make their ask, it's like, we're in the governor's budget, which is like, great. I mean, but it is that sort of talking point. We're in the governor's budget, but it's like, well, the House and Senate will be the ones that actually draft the budget. So, but yeah, it's nice to be able to say that. I don't know sort of how it works when it's a governor that's crafting a budget that won't be there in January to really even push the idea of the budget. But I think what Scott had thrown out, you know, whether it's the sobering beds next to the stabilization funding for that seems to have broad support. I would either do that or Plants Ferry, because parks always have broad support. So I think those are two good asks. Really, like Jeff was saying, you know, what's the value of being in the governor's budget? Realistically, not much, but it's better than I mean, it's something. It's something to say we're in the governor's, but it's just another sort of kind of arrow in the quiver there. So.
Well, and if it's in that part of the governor's budget, does it take it off then the specific capital ask from the state legislators?
No, I think you go at it from as many angles as you can, but
Right,
again,
but is that a different pool of funds if it's in the governor's budget versus other?
I don't think the governor puts out a capital budget. It's just a general fund budget, and the governors usually like to throw everything in there, you know, regardless of money.
The governor has a luxury.
It's a messaging bill, really.
Yeah. The governor has the luxury of doing a budget before the final revenue report comes in. So they usually can include additional things that aren't realistic. And once we know what that final revenue line is, to make it balanced. But no, it's no different pots of money. It's just as Commissioner Kearns was saying, it's just that extra little talking point. Gives you an extra kind of an endorsement, so to speak, that the governor and his team thought this was worthy enough that they put it in. And I thought it could be, when Colton brought it up, and after talking with Burgess, everybody kind of think it'd be a smart thing to go through. As you just discussed, there'll be a governor change, but if nothing else, it'll teach us a process for future years if we do think it's a smart thing to do going forward.
The governor's tasked with presenting that budget to the legislature, but then the legislature then, you know, I mean, it's not even really used as guideline. They then go do their own thing, but it's just a requirement that the governor does present a budget. So,
Well, if you choose to do something, I would recommend you include that exact same thing on your legislative ask. That's the that's the role of this, is kind of an early ask of what will be a later ask.
but I think, yeah, Plants Ferry or the stables, those are two non-controversial asks that I would think would be likely. I mean, if of all of our asks out there, I would think those would sort of be the two most likely that it would be like, yeah, I agree with those kind of thing from the governor's standpoint.
And I might suggest, obviously, it's your guys' decision, that perhaps there's more of a leaning towards Plants Ferry. If we get no more dollars for the crisis relief center, we've got plenty of funds like mental health, sales tax bucket to be able to cover whatever remaining capital dollars that we need. So just one thing to consider it.
I think I would agree, to move forward with Plans Ferry, just because that's more of an immediate need that we don't have funding for. We have a funding source for the other. And we're getting, we're hoping to get the federal dollars as well, so.
Is there a reason we wouldn't just throw both on? Can you prioritize them if we send in a request? Side number one, Plants Ferry, number two, sobering beds. I prefer.
I'm sure we
to leave both
could.
on personally, because why
Did-
not?
Jeff, can you think of is there a drawback to doing that? Saying
Both.
here's our two requests?
It's certainly an option. All my conversations were just Colton. They felt probably $1 million is the top end, and they felt going all in with one might have a little bit more push than dividing between two, because odds are it's not like you can ask $1 million each. They both felt $1 million would be a cap. And so the thought was go in with $1 million for one. Otherwise, you'll probably, if you get anything, you'll get one of them at $500,000. And because now to counter my own argument, if they both made it in at $500,000, you could have two things that the governor's budget had. But they weren't adamant do one, but I would definitely say everybody felt picking one and going all in at $1 million or just below was probably the strongest position to actually be successful.
Okay.
Okay. I will listen to your advice and we'll take it.
And we can still have both on our legislative
Oh,
agenda.
totally,
And we're-
totally.
yeah.
We're gonna have way more than that on our legislative agenda, but just, okay, for this ask,
That makes sense.
it's one thing. Okay,
Very good.
all right.
Sorry,
I
commissioners, I just have a real quick one.
Randy.
We've been working with a company to redo our cost allocation plan. Last was done in 2005. And part of this contract is 25,000, but they will also go to a cognizant agency to try to get us a higher negotiated indirect cost rate agreement. That's over the standard 10% today, which goes to 15% October 1st. Normally I could just sign this, but they have a indemnification language in the agreement, which Risk Management has reviewed. So per Mr. Amacio, I either need the board to sign this agreement or I need you to grant me the authority to sign the agreement. So that's what I want to know. I mean, do you want me to put it on for you guys to sign? Do you want me to sign it? So.
But do we still have to do a resolution allowing you to sign?
Probably.
That's what I would think, so.
Okay.
That is the standard practice.
All right.
That's
We'll
how we've
put
done
that on next week's agenda for you then.
That's how we've handled it in the past. Even the sheriff has a contract that's within his signing authority, that has indemnification language. Resolutions created, board delegates authority to sign.
Okay, I'll have that for you next week.
Is next week, do you need it sooner than that? That we'll take it by leave?
You can do either one. It's fine if I wait till next week, so. Whichever you prefer. Okay, we can do it by leave today too.
Ready to go.
I don't have the resolution ready, so I'd say let's do it next week. I'll work with the information
Okay.
instead of pulling something together later this morning. Yeah, it's fine. Next week is fine for us.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Patrick,
Great.
hey.
A couple minutes, Madam Chair, on a few communications items, upcoming events to be aware of that should be on your calendars. Or that you should have received invitations to. So the opening of the fair is next Friday. We'll have a press release. I anticipate I'll be working with Aaron on that, announcing the start of the fair, but also along with the public notice, making the media aware of the COG meeting. Traditionally, at least last year, my 1 year of experience, there was a few reporters who came to that. And they may be interested in what's on the agenda. Then we'll have Camas Meadow opening September 25th in the West Plains. September 26th is September 26th is State of the County. And we've had traditionally some media at that as well with the press release for GSI. We're working with them on promotions. They're selling tickets. And then we'll have in October, date to be determined, Bigelow Gulch opening, grand ribbon cutting ceremony, and we'll keep you all posted on the exact date that we're looking. Next spring, and this decision isn't final, subject to other decisions are being made, but the recommendation, I think, from Parks is, or at least they're on board with, doing a ribbon cutting for Bear Lake and for Liberty Lake in April and at the start of the next park season, if that's what you desire. I think in Bear Lake's case, it's, I forget exactly sequencing, Martha Lou has it in her brain. But it would come right after the end of the park season. Doesn't make sense to cut a ribbon on a park that's not gonna be open. Liberty Lake, I feel like there was a desire I was picking up on to maybe do it in the spring as well, so.
Well, it just seems like doing a ribbon cutting right at the end of the season seems.
And then closing.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then,
And then
sorry, you
closing
can't,
part.
you can't go in there.
We look at it from the parking lot here, but
I mean,
now you gotta leave.
I think we're gonna get more, just more enthusiasm and all that, doing it in the spring as the weather starts to turn and get people excited out there, so. I think that's a better way to do it. There's no rush to do it this fall.
Then I don't know if, I think Randy's back there, but I recall that we've done some messaging around the budget roundtables in the past, maybe a press release or media advisory, making the media aware, something to be putting on your social media channels so that the county can put out on social media as well, invite public participation in those. I think those come at the end of a commissioner meeting or the beginning of a commissioner meeting. So we'll work on some messaging with Randy around that and get the word out.
And I'm sure Jessica would remember, but usually as soon as we start rolling out some budget documents, PowerPoints, we usually put on the Spokane County homepage, sort of a banner that kind of has the flashing beacon that sometimes we do for emergencies, but it'll say, they're just something to draw attention to. Click on this link for budget documents. So when it becomes that time of year.
I think we can do that too.
Which makes me think for State of County, we're just gonna do a QR code for people at the table and not do a handout at the table, just most people don't keep them anyway, or they go in the trash, and so it's like if someone wants to know what our budget summary was and all of that, that they'll get a QR code, just to cut down on.
Save a few trees.
Yes, and save a few trees, so.
I'll mention on juvenile justice, the website is up. It's been up for a few weeks now. There is a handout that is nearing, it's going through final legal review. And then it'll be prepared for you in case you have any final feedback, but it's largely based on what the website content is. It's just a little different format. Instead of FAQ format, it's more of a fact sheet with some graphics and icons and things. But the idea for that would be for COG, but also for any events you may be going to proactively or being invited to in the community, you could have a leave behind for the public. And then the last component, once the handout's done, I should have a draft in my office of a video, informational video, very short, 2 minutes. So about half the time of what we had for the last measure, but just explaining what it is, and going through a few of the FAQs as kind of a public dialogue type video, but it's just informational, educational. If the goal is to push and have it ready for COG, if there's a desire to share it there.
Yes, it was on the agenda. I shared the agenda last week, so everyone agreed to the agenda. So, yeah, I think I just put county team right now, because I don't know who's gonna really present, just because I'm waiting to see what that is.
So can I ask what all is on the COG agenda? Cause Carl from STA had sent an email. I guess he was trying to get on.
Oh, he's not.
He's not. Okay. Cause as he sent you an email and then he forwarded the email to me. He was reaching out.
Do you have a copy of the agenda? I see she's coming.
Okay.
Because we are on a short time frame. So doors open at 8, 8:15 is the welcome and opening comments. Then we've got Fairchild Air Force Base update with the new colonel. Whatcom County visit update, the Measure 1 juvenile detention facility sales tax extension discussion. City's gonna be able to do their Prop 1, as well as introduce the new chief of police. And then just kind of the roundtable thing. But we gotta be done by 10:15 because we opened at 10:30, so it's 2 hours will go very fast. But he could be during if depending on timing, if we've got enough time, I could go to him in the roundup.
Okay. He sent you an email. If you want to respond back to him.
Okay, I haven't.
So you said it's 3 hours, 8 to 11?
2.
Oh,
10:15, 8:15 to 10:15. And normally we don't start till like 9. It's like doors open at 8:30 and we start at 9 and then so.
It used to be, years ago, it used to be, we'd do the ribbon cutting, then go in for the COG would be
Yes.
after the ribbon cutting. But
So that way we can
the
go as long as we needed to.
start time of the fair keeps changing
Yeah.
each year.
right.
So
So, yeah, we used to do the fair opening at 9 o'clock. And we'd all go in and then we could be there till noon or 1 or whatever. But, so it's pretty compressed and usually, the COG is always, before the fair like that, has always had any initiatives that are on the ballots for different cities or the county would get discussed there. Okay, I will look for that. But that's the agenda. So I do just have this Spokane County team is, the Measure 1 juvenile detention, just because I don't know if we want to have the sheriff. Chris did a great job at Downtown Spokane Partnership, maybe
Hope I didn't ruin anything.
you want to do it.
Tori, would she be available?
And Tori, I think Tori will be,
Always double check.
okay. Tori should be available. I know the sheriff is gonna be there, so.
So late, the reason I was asking about timing is later that day, I'm gonna be interviewing Tori, doing my spotlight on
That's right.
Prop 1.
Okay,
So like answering all the questions, going through the facts. And then we're trying to find another person to be part of that, maybe someone from law enforcement or the sheriff's office or prosecutor. So we're trying to find another person to give their perspective on the juvenile justice sales tax. So anyway, so that will be produced and running as of mid-September, right?
Yeah, I think it's
KSPS.
the third Saturday it runs of the month.
So that'll be good to have out there.
When are you filming it?
Later that day.
Oh, same day.
Yeah, that's why I was like, when is this done? Cause I gotta run to KSPS.
I'm happy to help, or you could do it, whatever you think.
perfect.
I'll follow orders.
Yeah, well, that's why I think initially Brenda had me in there and I'm like, I'm happy to we'll just get Spokane County team on the agenda
Okay.
and we'll figure it out. As we go.
Did Tori join you for that? And that worked out well?
She
Yeah.
kind of talked about the operations and kind of the history, and I talked about the renewal and kind of the high level picture.
So yeah, you guys can
I would assume that the media will start to pay more attention
arm wrestle.
After
to the
Labor Day.
different measures on the ballot, right?
Yeah.
It's just, and then we'll be ready to go with our information hopefully we'll get a lot of free media, just wanting to spread information about the measure.
One thing about the draft communications plan, and I don't think you asked me to, but I went out and got quotes from 2 vendors for a mail card that could go out. It's somewhere in the range between $60,000 and $100,000, depending on what lists we use. But I did get some questions. If you mail it to all registered voters by household, it is a little bit of a cost savings. If you mail it to all mailable address, you get it to more people. It's not quite as much as all registered voters because they don't have to print on the card and they can actually mail it through a different system. But the postage is the bulk of the cost, and the more people you mail, the more it costs. So the 2 vendors were Lawton Printing and Waltz Mailing Services, just to give us a ballpark idea. But if the board wanted to consider that, it's important to know there are production timelines that go with that. Not just getting the piece designed, but getting it processed and getting in a printer schedule if we were going to contract that out. So I would put the ballpark figure between conservatively 60,000 upwards of 75, depending on what list. If we were to use the all mailable addresses list, that's something we would purchase from the vendor. If we were going to use all registered voters by household, I'd assume we could get that from the county auditor. So we wouldn't have to pay for a list in that way. Those were just some options.
And that would be, we were talking about whether that was, we could just do registered voters. Is that, we got an answer on that we could? I thought we had to do every address, but.
No, it's as long as the kind of group that you are sending to is objective.
Okay.
Right? That we're not targeting
Right.
likely voters, not
No, no.
targeting voters that are likely to, that's kind of what makes it more campaign versus information.
Right.
So
Okay.
to be sure that we're just sending it to a group that is objectively chosen, not chosen to.
And there may be multiple voters in one household, so you're just making it kind of generic to the household, okay?
I would say.
I think we
that
should,
would be what we
I think
do.
we really need to do that.
Can you, I guess, yeah, that's a proposal. Do we have a cost estimate as to what the total cost of kind of the plan putting it together? And then how are we, I guess, we're paying for it?
More likely, probably a budget amendment.
Yeah.
Do it.
So,
Be tight this year otherwise.
yeah. So I would,
I can forward you the estimates from both of them and try give you the table I tried to put together. They're not quite apples to apples because they have a little bit different methodology. But the other difference is I think Waltz is independent and Lawton is a union shop. And so if that's important, getting a bug on a mail piece, that's a possibility.
and I would say just give us the quote as to what it is for mailing to registered voters.
Okay.
That would be the block that we're. That's who's gonna be making decisions.
Commissioners, I would just add that in elections, when you send out the voters pamphlet, it is cheapest to go just to every address. So you're not sending multiple copies to the same address because of registered voters. So that's what we did in
Right, each
elections.
household,
Just to household.
just households, yes.
Reduces.
But I think we can,
I think they're able
once you
to,
have the list, you can,
Eliminate duplicate addresses.
yes.
so.
Actually reducing the label, manual placing labels on it.
It's the
and stuff, too.
labeling
It's
that
like,
reduces the cost a little
yeah,
bit.
to get rid of the labels then.
It's what you've seen box holder current resident. That's when you send it to all addresses. It's a very broad, the broadest you can go.
But we'd still just go to registered vote, households with registered voters.
I would just say in elections, it is just a shotgun. So that's the cheapest way to go. When we send out, or at least when I was in the auditor's office, when we started doing voters canvass, it went to every household, whether there was a registered voter or not. That was the cheapest way. And then you're not worried about the sorting, putting address labels on. Because if you
say only household registered voters, now you have an address label involved, and you have sorting, and it's a different cost point also. So when they looked at that.
Is that what you're seeing on your,
Generally speaking, and that, like I said, they use different methodologies. I've had to send it to a few eyeballs. It's hard, it's difficult to make sense, but I think Randy's point is correct. Because you save on labeling, you save on sorting by going with the shotgun approach versus trying to get a list, address it, sort it. It's just more hands to put it in these mail trays and get it on there when you're targeting addressable addresses, because then you've got zip codes and routes, zip+4.
Okay.
I guess I've never priced out in any of the campaigns. I've never priced out just sending to mail holder, address. It's always been to, I mean, you're targeting, I guess I've never priced out just a generic mailing to everybody regardless of anything else. Just if you have a mailbox, you get one. So, wow.
So I guess what I would request is, you guys can correct me, but I'd like to see, what do we think we're spending on each item within this campaign?
There's only
This-
one cost.
With it, I don't want to say campaigns, informational for
Yeah.
Measure One, because it's like we've got the website.
The website is within existing resources.
Okay, are we gonna do utility statements?
That's something we could contemplate. The cost of that's, I think, 2,500.
So I think we need to know that, so we can make the decision as.
We'll recirculate the draft communications plan which had all of that. Probably haven't seen it in a few weeks, but the dollar amounts that were in there were 75,000 for a mail, which seems accurate.
But then you can update it for, here's what you learned then. And if we go all households versus registered voters and. so we can-
I'll send you what the vendor sent me, the cost. There's some other things in their cost structure. One vendor may mark up postage. I'm not sure. Like I said, I'll send you what they've sent me. If we have questions about it, we can ask them.
Well, and if it's over a certain amount, do we have to do an RFP?
Good purchasing.
Maybe that's gonna then change it if we do a request, but which then we gotta do soon, so. Okay.
I don't know that we want to, if the commissioners wanna go out with an all county mailing, it would seem like we'd be duplicating efforts if we're gonna do a utility bill insert. So we're already basically covering it with everyone countywide.
But for $2,500, every touch you get just helps solidify. It's the multiple touches. That I think helps.
Yes, it's called frequency. Yeah. One last item and then I'll stop is we are going to be talking about a potential media tour of juvenile detention. There's been some interest in the jail, and then one reporter has already requested kind of all three a ride along as well that they'll do at the sheriff's office. So on the earned media part of the plan, in the communications plan, some kind of a tour and potential media availability with Tori or other commissioner perhaps would be good. Get a commissioner voice in there. So that's in planning right now.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay, I'll get back to. Anything else?
And then do we have to approve that for a final?
Last week I just asked for a head nod, so.
Oh, okay.
It's okay. So.
Okay. I don't remember us really discussing that, so I must have
What was
missed,
it? The
I must have missed
discussing
that.
what?
The agenda. I don't remember us going through it, so. I don't know if that's just me, but I don't remember going through the COG agenda last week as of.
I'm going
that
At
to,
some
video?
point.
I'm gonna pull it back up.
Yes,
because we-
okay.
You had
we
it
did
out.
Yeah.
Okay, well, no, did we go through it and say, yes, no, yes, I know we just did today,
Yeah, no, because it was. the
maybe
same.
I'm forgetting that, I don't know.
Because it was the same, because then Chris asked if, with what kind
At
of
one
follow
point
up.
we did.
Okay.
yeah. I just don't remember when.
Okay,
Was it couple of, I mean, it was maybe 3 weeks ago, because I want
Oh.
to make sure we were all okay with the
Oh,
agendas.
okay.
I was putting it together.
Okay,
So
okay.
I will.
No, it's good. It's okay.
Do you know where you find that in the? When we went through that. I think
Probably
it's-
when I was zooming in from Nashville.
It's all good.
Okay, so I was making sure that we talked about it because I didn't want to have any issues. Because we hadn't sent it out yet, so I wanted to make sure before it got sent out that I had.
Mhm.
Everybody saying it looked okay,
Okay.
so, but and I thought I handed it out to everybody. I'm gonna take a look and make sure you're okay with it before you that.
How long are you allotting to each of these?
I don't know, just because I don't know how much time Fairchild needs, so
Okay.
that's kind of.
I heard sometimes they tend to be a little long-winded with the
Yes.
same PowerPoint presentation we see every year.
Well, we haven't seen them for a while. They haven't presented for a while, so. But yeah, we got 2 hours and I'll be keeping us on task.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
I'm thinking it's like, what I put there is like 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Knowing some will go over and then, and as you know, part of it is, just the introductions takes forever.
Mhm.
I mean, I can't predict how long.
Yeah.
Introductions go. That's why it's like, I'm just trying to keep the rest of it to like 15 minutes and then. And then with Q&A, I have to then cut it off. And that's why I wasn't putting the exact times.
Mhm.
But then, but I'll talk to Carl about.
I can see these three going really long. That's,
Well, I think Watcom, we're trying to, Emily's trying to put a slide together just to keep it on task. So we're gonna be just pretty brief. And-
well, I would think the Q&A for that is going to go long. I would think a lot of people are gonna have questions for you about your Watcom trip. I mean, I could be totally wrong, but I would think a lot of people are gonna, what did they say about this? What did they say about this? What was their method on that? I mean, I would think that could spur a lot of Q&A, but maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm hoping not.
Yeah.
I mean, cause there's just not a lot to. In my mind, that's a different perspective, but it's like, we're just gonna inform as to, there was a group of people that went over to Whatcom County and continue to have this discussion so we can look at what a future measure would look like, because we know we have the need for the facility.
Okay.
And here's what we did, it's like the measure failed, in November. This group came together to try to talk about what to do and how to look at it, which we weren't part of, we just got invited to attend, so, that's why I think they were meeting this morning on that. They come up with, and that's why I asked Emily to produce a slide that just shows kind of the timeline and what their future thoughts are for it. Because it's gonna be up to us to determine putting a ballot measure on and when's the right time.
Just an idea on that, maybe you could set it up by saying, we don't have the time for comprehensive discussion, but anyone who went on the trip would be available to answer questions. And then Whatcom County produced that PowerPoint that kind of goes through their experience, which was at Wasac, and I thought was really helpful. We could offer to share that with anybody who's interested in learning more about it, because it really takes you through the Whatcom kind of story, start to finish, and would probably answer many of the questions that people may have.
Sounds good.
I'm happy to be contact Chris if you want the PowerPoint.
Right.
No, that was it's a good presentation.
Yeah.
Talks about the history of the previous measures. Yeah.
So, and then like our detention, I don't know, we don't have a video, right? On the renewal, it's just.
For COG, yes, I should have a draft video Wednesday or Thursday. We're gonna push to have it finalized in time for COG, but what we do have, for sure, there's one last, some legal advice that needs to be, discussed, but we will have a handout.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm comfortable that we will have the handout conflicts resolved.
Okay.
The video would be 2 to 3 minutes maximum.
Okay. It'd be great to have it if, you know, it was ready. Just for,
Yes, that would be,
for those visual learners.
well, and then have it up on the website then right after that.
Yeah.
Have it all ready to go. So, yeah, that's kind of what the plan is, cause, and like I said, I was trying to keep it not too many topics because I'm concerned we're not gonna have enough time. So,
I know, and yeah, I mean, I don't think we're gonna have the time to do it, but I know previous years, they've, in between each presentation, you would point to kind of 3 cities and be like,
yes,
all right, 2 minutes each, tell us what you're doing, 2 minutes each, 2
Like
minutes each.
updates.
Yeah, just an update from your jurisdiction, but yeah, those sometimes really stretch out too.
right, which is why I kind of just had the roundup at the end
Yeah,
to go
just
depending
gonna
on.
throw it out if.
Yeah. Or any quick somebody wants to
Mhm.
state that it's happening in their area.
Yeah.
But like, Airway Heights, their measure passed.
Right.
In August, so there was talk about, do we have them talk about theirs, but it's like, no, it already passed.
Yeah.
Don't even talk to it. That's down to them. So I don't know, yeah. I mean, like the whole, talk about Shrek, we could be talking about lots of.
No, saw a press release about that.
2 hours.
I veto that one.
That's definitely gonna be a long
Yes, that would
conversation.
be a longer conversation, but I mean, it could end up. So, but those are what I have right now, and we'll try to stick to that because I just don't think we're gonna have a lot of time. And I think in the future, we gotta talk about how, if we wanna have more, I think we can have COGS, there's a lot of, it's
We used to do, it used to be 2 a year.
only one since I've been commissioner.
Yeah, no,
But it used to be
It used to
more.
be 2 a year.
You
yeah.
know,
I think it's worthwhile, especially with other topics. Homelessness, I don't know about Shrek, but those are regional topics that it's always good to have a forum.
And a lot of times in the past too, we talk about, elections would be there with a list of here's the potential measures that are gonna be coming up in the next year, just so people knew what schools we're gonna be putting on and the potential for other ones. So that was always a COG topic that, there's just not enough time this time. So,
Do you want me to help in any way further with the Whatcom piece?
I'm
Or
sure.
do you feel like you've got it?
I'm happy not to be talking on any of this, that, I'm happy to,
I'm happy to stand up and help answer questions if there's anything.
Yeah.
I just want to be helpful. I don't want to intrude if you feel like I got it, I'm going
No.
for it. So
as soon as I get the slide from, Emily, I'll send it to you so you can take a look at it. Okay. Let's just talk quick. So. Okay.
All right.
Very good. Anything else? Okay, then it is 10:53 and we will adjourn for the morning and see everybody back for the 2 o'clock. The 2 o'clock looks like it's pretty.
Public hearing, that's the first time, that's the first one in a long time.
I know, I'm like-
Public hearing.
So